Today we're going to be talking about alignment vocabulary, building off of some of our other vocabulary videos. The last one we did was suspension. There will be some overlap between suspension and alignment, but I want to do some alignment breakdown videos, and I feel like it's important to show and kind of go through these different terms that I'll be using in those alignment videos. So we'll start to build that base now, and then hopefully those videos will make more sense in the future. So we'll start with 4-hole adapters. This is a connector plate that attaches to the distal end of your socket using 4 screws. So this typically is on really every socket. It has a female or a male attachment. A male would be a pyramid, which we'll get to in a second. And then that's how you'll attach a foot underneath, or a knee and a foot, or all of those components. So everything has a 4-hole connector plate underneath it. And then those connector plates can come in so many different variations. Like I said, you can have a male or a female. You can have one that has an offset on it so that you're shifting the knee or foot underneath you in different ways. You can have one that adds rotation. You can have one that adds flexion and extension. So there are a lot of different types of 4-hole connector plates. Next, we've already talked about this a little bit. You have a tube clamp with a female adjustable component on the end. So that is really any of these pylons that have a tube, and then they have a female adjustable component on the end. That would be our little female pyramid receiver here. So the generic definition is a prosthetic adapter used to connect modular prosthetic components and allow for adjustments in alignment in offset and height. Then next, what we'll talk about is working off of that female adapter is just these set screws. Set screws in your female adjustable, that's how you really align everything with the pyramid, the male receiver. And then this here, not the foot itself, but this little piece here is our pyramid receiver. So you can see if I put this on here, then you tighten those screws, you can get different types of alignment, different angles of where that foot is going to sit underneath the socket. So switching from some componentry more to some body terminology, if you go again back to our suspension vocabulary video, we did go into some of this, but we're going to do a quick refresher. So first here, you have, if this is, straight up and down underneath or above our devices, our components, you have socket flexion, which will be tilting the socket backwards, and you have socket extension, which is moving the socket forwards. And then from there, now you're looking at my socket straight on. So over here is the lateral wall, over here is the medial wall. So you have adduction, adduction, which would be towards the midline, and abduction, abduction, which would be away from the midline. So the next thing I want to talk about is inversion. This is what we're talking about when we're looking at the foot aligned underneath you. So inversion would mean that the sole of my foot is rotated towards the midline, or lifting towards the midline a little bit. And then eversion would be the opposite of my sole, away from the midline. Then going from there, you have plantar flexion, which is rotating the foot down so that it's planting. And you also have dorsiflexion, which is how the foot lifting those toes up, right? So when I'm aligning something under my female alignable, you can have inversion, eversion, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. The easy way to remember plantar flexion again is that you're planning, dorsi is opposite. 2 more pretty common terms that you'll hear a lot when you're going through alignment setup, and even like just device setup and getting things ready to go, is your bench alignment, which is the initial prosthetic setup, where a prosthetist positions the socket relative to the foot and other components on a workbench. And then you will have your static alignment, which is the initial adjustment of the prosthetic device once the user is wearing it. And kind of, a lot of like knees and Autobach especially, they all have like kind of it through the app, the Intui Pro video, there are a lot of these knees now that come out with a static alignment tool. So you can see your bench alignment first, and then once you put the device on and where you're kind of standing comfortably, you can see that static alignment and where maybe some of those initial changes could be made before you even take a step. On Intui Pro, it shows you exactly where you want to make a turn so that you can get that good quality alignment for the device. So that's a quick rundown of all of our alignment vocab. Like I said, we're going to be getting into more alignment going forward into the future, and so I wanted to give this breakdown, but also continue to build on that vocabulary, because I do think that the vocabulary matters a lot, and having that base understanding of what we're saying and what we're talking about goes a long way in making sure that you get the right fit and the right alignment that you need. Other than that, we'll see you next time. Thank you.